Hey, what's up? It's your girl Neek, and you're tuned in to Neek at Night. And tonight we're going to be going over the ASAP Rocky trial, giving an inside look into the trial with my two special guests. Now, today I have a special guest by the name of Marie, and I have Megan Cunit that is going to be giving insight into the trial and the things that have been going on. So without further ado, let me bring up my special guests, and they can personally introduce themselves correctly so I don't flub it and mess it up. So let's bring up Attorney Marie. Hey, Marie.
Hey, how are you?
Okay, so Marie is a former prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney. So let her give her introduction, and then we're going to bring up Megan.
My name is Marie Pereira. I am a Haitian American attorney. I am a former prosecutor in Bronx County, and my specialty is criminal law. And I'm also a frequent guest on Court TV and other national network stations talking about true crime cases.
All right, so let's bring up Megan Cunit, and I'm gonna bring you down, Marie, and I'm gonna bring up Megan. So let Megan introduce herself. Hey, Megan. Oh, your sound is off.
Sorry, kind of flubbed that introduction, but hi everyone. Thanks for having me on. It's Megan. I'm here in Los Angeles. Some of you might know me from some other cases, but just excited to talk about the case with everyone. So thanks for joining.
All right, and Megan Cunit is a journalist that covers a multitude of trials and these high-profile cases. So we have her on as well. So let's add Marie onto the stage. So just so that I can just introduce some of you guys to the trial, the case. If you guys are not aware, ASAP Rocky is on trial because it is alleged that he supposedly or allegedly shot one of his ASAP members by the name of ASAP Relly. ASAP Relly is a guy who grew up with ASAP. They were kind of, from the schoolyard to adulthood. ASAP Rocky then took off and became famous. In the midst of his fame, there started to be some type of rivalry between the two. There was some type of disagreement, and they decided that they both were going to meet up in Hollywood. So they meet up in Hollywood. There's the tussle. There's this weapon that gets pulled. There's these shots that ring out. And Relly says as a result of that, he is injured. So he says that he's injured, and he shows his hands that there are these markings that he say are bullet grazes. Now, according to others, everybody's opinion is different as far as if they believe it's bullet grazings, if they think that is something else, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to show you guys the video, and then I'm going to get Marie and Megan's input about some things. So let me show you guys the actual video of the incident from TMZ, and then we're going to go forward. All right, so as you see right here, ASAP Rocky is on the left, and his friend ASAP Relly is on the right. The person that just entered into the frame is ASAP Ills, and he is breaking up the fight, or the tussle rather. So let me bring it back, and then I'll play it fully. All right, so in that video that TMZ shared, they didn't post the audio of the actual, where you can hear the actual rounds go off. So I'm gonna go to Megan Cunniff's video that shows where you can kind of hear the sound, and then I'll get their input right after that. So let me pull up Megan's video to show you guys so that we get the full picture of what is alleged to happen, and then go from then I'll add their input. Sorry. So let's see. Okay.
I'm going to show you 14B. This one is also the chest area of the sweatshirt.
Rocky's got the skull more so than like I think more favors a witness when his actual attorney is Takapina and Rocky for defamation. So those are just, I think, on hold right now until the. So this is the very beginning when they first see each other. Actually, wait. Okay, there's the shooting. This is supposedly the shooting. So that is the shooting, and that's all you can see. I mean, you can't even tell who's doing what or anything. So but the cops will guide it, and through Relly's testimony, the prosecutors are hoping that it establishes who all is who. I mean, you can obviously tell something's going on. You can't. I mean, so that's the video of the shooting. There's definitely something for the defense to work with.
Oh wait, the shots would have rang out already. Okay, I don't know. All right, I'll show you guys at a. Go ahead, Megan. What were you saying?
I think I've got a link to a Twitter video that has the shots because Takapina was trying to do something in that cross of the cop to show that like the gunshots might be a little off in the timing to the video, and it wasn't really making sense to me at all. And the cop was getting confused. You guys remember when he was questioning Frank Flores, but then when 12B got up and started testifying about the car alarm and the gunshots, I'm like, I got to go back over it this weekend. But clearly they were trying to show that the gunshots in the video that they aligned might be a little bit off. Like it's not precise time things, and they're trying to do it to match 12E's testimony. I'm a little unclear about what exactly, but like I said, I need to go over everything this week. And I'm doing a story on 12E's testimony, but hearing 12E start testifying about the gunshots and the car alarm kind of made me realize what Takapina was doing when he was crossing Flores about the timing of the gunshots and the car alarm or something like that. But like I said, it's kind of complicated.
Oh.
They're up to something there.
Okay, so we'll pull up the video a little bit later. But just first,
I just getting into the private chat. Yes, right.
Okay. Good. All right, hold on. Let me see.
I think the video is very ambiguous, and it's not a slam dunk for either side. It's not.
All right, go ahead, Marie.
I said I think the video is very ambiguous, and it's not a slam dunk for either side. I'm glad you put a little arrow towards the two people we see in the video, showing us who is ASAP Rocky and who is Relly. In the beginning, it appears that ASAP Relly is pushing ASAP Rocky back, and it makes him look like the aggressor. And then when they emerge after the shoving, it seems like ASAP Rocky pulls a gun from almost like the back of his pants, and that's when you see the gun. But it does make Relly look like the initial aggressor. But again, it is not a slam dunk situation here because it's grainy, it's just too fast, it's incomplete, and in and of itself, it's not going to make a case for the prosecution or the defense from the outset.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, so given that there is a weapon involved, I've seen a lot of the testimony be around really initially of him saying that he was a victim of this shooting. And then it shifted from, okay, well, just, don't even care about what he says. The gun went off, period. And that's what, then they shifted basically to that. What do you say to the kind of shift in what they were making their claim about?
When you say they, are you talking about prosecution? Excuse me?
Prosecution, sorry. The prosecution, sorry.
Prosecution is only focused on the fact that there was allegedly a semi-automatic weapon, it was discharged, and there was an injury to another person. That's what they're focused on. That's what their main focus on. And defense, on the other hand, is trying to say, one, it wasn't even a real weapon, it was a prop gun. Two, our client was not the initial aggressor. So it appears that Joe Tacopina is trying to add a little element of self-defense, because there were times when the word initial aggressor was being used, and that is only used when you're trying to say, whatever I did, if I did it to protect myself. So there are several theories of the case on defense side: money grab, extortion, somebody who's hating a former friend. And then on the prosecution side, they're trying to keep out the money grab situation. And they're basically saying, so what, even if it was a money grab, that doesn't give ASAP Relly, a position where another person pulling out a gun and shooting him is justified, even if that person is famous ASAP Rocky.
All right. So let me for those of you guys who are not up to speed, or we kind of just jumped in there, let me kind of bring it back just a little bit. So as you've seen the video that I showed you guys, there was this tussle, there was this meetup, there was this exchange between the two that in the beginning it looked like it was mutual combat. Now, something that the defense is arguing or pointing out is that at the point where we see ASAP Rocky pull out the weapon, there's no shots at that time. He puts it back in his waistband. He goes and he tries to dip off, and ASAP Relly follows him. And that's where we see the second location where it's the grainy video. You see 4 individuals in there. They're doing this tussle. And at that time is when the 2 shots ring out. Being a prosecutor and a former or a criminal defense attorney, how does that doesn't that kind of like cancel out one another?
It could, but if you're a prosecutor and you're, hell bent on prosecuting ASAP Rocky, all right, and making a name for yourself because it's a sexy, case that people want to hear about. I think if he wasn't ASAP Rocky as the defendant, we wouldn't even be here, if you really want my opinion. Because at the end of the day, yes, there was allegedly a gun they never really found, and he pulled it out and they see. But in the video, you don't know, who is the initial aggressor. And like you said, even if he pulls out that gun, he walked away and the victim pursued him, the alleged victim. And then the shots rang out. So how much of a victim were you if when you saw the gun, you weren't even afraid and you pursued the person who allegedly was being a threat to your life and your safety? Let's just, wrap our heads around that. But if I'm putting on the prosecutor hat like you want me to, I could argue just pulling out the gun itself is an attempted assault. So even if you walked away, for that moment, the person you pulled the weapon on experienced alarm, annoyance, and fear for his personal safety. And in this society we live in, no person has the right to threaten, fake gun, make a person feel as if their life is in danger. So we could stop right there for the prosecution.
But is your life in danger if you are meeting up for mutual combat? Because initially they both agreed that they were about to rumble.
Well, to say that you think you're meeting up for mutual combat, I don't think that the testimony given by Relly on the stand says that he knew he was meeting up for mutual combat. He thought that he was meeting up to discuss the whole situation, all the background beef, the beef he had because he thought that ASAP Rocky did not pay for the other ASAP's funeral, the one who died. And the fact that he, Relly, claims that on the way home from the airport, he was in the truck with ASAP Bari, and ASAP Rocky called Bari, not thinking that Relly was in the car. Bari told Relly, shut up, and then ASAP unleashed gossip, hate talk about Relly, which, I think it was very tacky of ASAP Jabari to do that if he really did it. To know that you're friends with all three of them. Right. Rocky doesn't know Relly's in the car. He's trashing Relly, talking about that nigga ain't blah, 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 that N-word, blah, blah, blah. He's like a female writing me paragraphs. He's emotional, down talking him, and he doesn't even know the other guys in the car. I think that's what really added fuel to that fire. But to say that Relly knew he was going to walk into almost like an ambush, because if they were coming to talk, what did Ills have to do with this that he needed to be there? And what did 12B have to do with it that he needed to be there? It seemed to me a 3-against-1 situation. And he didn't know that it was going to go down as quickly as it did. And the violence was going to be like that. I thought maybe he thought it was going to be like a shouting match. And you did this, you did that. And then they air out their grievances and that's it. He never knew someone was coming with the three of them. And allegedly there was a knife involved. And then a gun who they say was a fake gun. Really, I don't believe he knew that he was coming into mortal combat like what you're saying. I disagree with that part.
All right. Okay. Don't go anywhere, Marie. I think I'm not sure if you're glitching in and out for the viewers, but for me, when you're talking, the screen is kind of like freezing, like some. So I'm not sure if that's just on my end or if that's translating. I'm gonna bring you down. I'm gonna bring Megan up. And I'm going to ask Megan some questions, so don't go anywhere. All right. So, Megan, the introduction of the prop gun, we heard that for the first time. Well, we didn't hear it for the first time, but in testimony, we heard ASAP 12V talk about that he pulled out a prop gun. What do you think about in terms of the prop gun introduction?
Well, I think it's just kind of a wild defense theory because, I mean, you're never supposed to shift the burden, no matter what. The burden of proof is always on prosecutors. But I've always kind of wondered if, like, really specific defense narratives like that kind of invite burden shifting. No matter how much the jury is going to be instructed, the defense doesn't have to prove anything. When you have really specific theories, it's like the jurors are kind of looking for something like that, and then it gives the prosecutors a lot of room to try to hit at the defense theory instead of just trying to prove their case. And this one is so specific that I kind of, you see that in the cross of 12E, like how John Lewin is like, and he's, so badgering and so eccentric himself, but he's able to get at these questions with 12E, like, well, if Relly knew it was a fake gun and people knew that Rocky carried a fake gun, how is that a deterrent to anything? And he's able to kind of chip away at this fake gun proposal. And it's kind of an example of burden shifting, but it's not going to count as that, like on an appeal or something, because the defense is the one that put it out there. So I'm kind of worried, it kind of seems like the the prop gun defense is just kind of a unique defense in just how specific it is and how much it just begs for like, okay, we need some receipts on this prop gun, you know, even though there is absolutely no requirement for the defense to like put anything like that, you know. I don't know. I remember when the judge asked if they were going to produce the prop gun and they're like, nope. And I'm kind of surprised they didn't maybe push back on the judge. He didn't do it in front of the jury, but it's like, it's not like they're required to produce anything, but it's just kind of an inherent defense that like requires more support, you know. But they do have 12E up there now testifying about the prop gun, and then after him is Lou Levin, who is going to testify a lot about prop guns too. I guess that's Rocky's tour manager. So we'll see.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a prop gun before or used or anything?
No, but somebody actually in my YouTube chat brought up a good like popular culture reference for people to tell them about is a prop gun is what Alec Baldwin should have used in that movie. It's what he thought he was firing when he killed the movie director, and it was actually a real gun. So, I mean, I really don't have, other than just writing about guns a lot, because I've written about a lot of crime and journalism. I mean, I've only like even touched a real gun once. My dad, when I was growing up, like had a lot of guns in his study, but he didn't like shoot them or anything. They were just like old rifles and stuff that he thought it was cool. He thought he had a ivory handled pistol like Patton had, but I really don't have any experience with guns outside that, let alone prop guns. So, but yeah, the prop gun theory. I think
let me ask Marie about the prop gun thing. What's your thought about it, Marie? And I'm gonna I think it's because I haven't streamed from my laptop, so I'm just like, I don't know if I should switch back to my computer or what. But in the meantime, Marie, tell us your theory on what weight this gives to the case, the prop gun defense.
I think the prop gun is an extremely important thing as far as the defense's theory of the case. Because if they're saying that it was a prop gun, so therefore the charge of being in possession of a semi-automatic weapon doesn't make sense, then I agree with Megan 100%. They need to produce that prop gun. And although there is a presumption of innocence for anyone accused of a crime, and you're entitled to remain silent under the Constitution from beginning to the end, that right exists. Jurors are not stupid people either. If you're telling them a story and you want them to believe you, they expect you to sit down and tell them the story. Now, what ASAP Rocky is trying to do through the testimony of ASAP 12B is tell the story about the prop gun, because his friend is testifying. I've seen him with a prop gun before on 3 occasions. And on that day, it was a prop gun. And he even alluded that it could be the same gun. So he's trying to tell his story through the lens and the presence of 12B. But there's a problem there. 12B, I say, is full of BS. You know what? BS, and I'm not talking about the bad word BS. He's full of bias, and he's a sycophant. He's a fan. He's all up on Rocky, and he would basically say anything to remain in that circle and be with them. So his testimony is not that credible because it doesn't come clean and pure. It comes with bias. And then again, he's a fan. He's a sycophant. So telling the story through 12B, I agree with Megan, is not going to cut it. Even though he doesn't have to take the stand, Rocky needs to explain in his own words that it was a prop gun, and it would make sense, like Megan said again, to come up with those receipts. It's common sense evidence. That's what jurors want when there's a he say situation.
Yeah, I agree with you as far as I'm going to just be honest and tell my opinion. I don't think anybody with any common sense believes the prop gun theory. Okay. I don't believe it. I've talked to other media people and I've asked them what they thought about the prop gun theory. And not even almost, every single person that I've talked to and I asked what they thought about the prop gun defense, they thought it was ridiculous. And it was almost the same reaction to what I asked about the bullet graze. When I showed people his injury that he said he sustained from this incident, there's not one person that I asked and I showed it and they looked at it and they said, oh my God, he looked like everyone thought that was BS as well. So in a case where both sides are producing BS theories, how does that fare with the jury? And do you think that them bringing in Rihanna is a balancing act? Because they're showing up Rihanna a lot more now. Like at first she comes in, she's coming in through secret entrances. She's in there before we even get in there. She's not mingling in the hall. She's leaving out privately. And now they're amping it up. When we go on breaks, she wouldn't even come out in the halls at all. She would stay in the court. She would stay in the courtroom. She wouldn't leave out. She was very low key. And now I'm not sure if after Wally testified and he tanked his testimony, now yesterday, Rihanna's in the hallway with Rocky. When we're on break, she's like embracing him, showing that they're like a lovey couple, all in front of the jurors. The jurors are outside in the hall when we were on break. Brianna comes up and I'm like,
she outside.
oh, this is interesting here. I'm like, okay. So do you think that Rihanna is the balancing act to the, I mean, how does that fare with the jury to you?
I'm not sure. I mean, they were so hammered about you're not going to be biased because of Rihanna, right? That if anything, it might make them a little paranoid that perhaps they're being too easy on Rocky, like subconsciously or stuff. I mean, I'm thinking about the one woman who I remember identifying herself as Rihanna fan, and she's not like a super fan. And when you think about it, I mean, look, she's like a middle-aged woman, the one who's an assistant elementary school principal, probably a little bit younger. She's Asian. She was the one who said that she's a Rihanna fan. It's like, well, of course. I mean, Rihanna's like one of the most famous entertainers in the world. So the idea that a lot of people like her, and I think outside of like stan culture, sometimes people just don't know a lot about entertainers. And I remember the principal was the one who I think said she didn't know about Rocky. So there's kind of an assumption here that women who are fans of Rihanna are going to hear about this shooting and think it's somehow in her best interest that he gets away with it, and not actually be kind of surprised that like this is Rihanna's world. Her boyfriend going out on the streets at like 10 p.m. at night to go settle a beef with some friends from high school. Like it's just it might be a little jarring to her. I mean, I've been watching her too, and I think over the last couple of days, I'm like, I think this juror is getting pissed. And it's just kind of an opinion about why she looks like that. Like during 12E's testimony, I could see her just kind of sitting there with her lips pursed, just kind of looking at 12E. And it's just my opinion in my own subjective thought about why she's looking like that. But I'm like, I kind of think this woman's tired of the bullshit. I mean, she's an elementary school principal. Like the idea that she's going to be impressed by this, there's just an inherent immaturity to what happened here. I mean, the text between, Rocky texts him back, I know you hate me, I hate you too. I mean, this shit has got a reminder of like the third graders that she has to referee at the elementary school. So again, it's just my opinion about why she looks like that. But I'm like, guys, I don't think an elementary school assistant principal is going to be like good for the defense. But I don't know. She's the one with Rihanna. So the idea that she's just going to be so starstruck that she wants to acquit because of Rihanna, I'm just not so sure. But anyways.
Yeah, I think that might not. I think that it might not play in the way that you say, as far as like her being shocked about Rihanna, but it might play on it like this is like kid stuff. Like I'm not going to send somebody to jail for this high school beef type stuff. That is there really a true injury here? Is there really a, like I don't know. But what do you think, Marie?
I think the word is reasonable doubt you're referring to. Exactly. Both of them, their stories are questionable. Both of them cannot justify their account of what happened with undeniable proof. There is no prop gun. The only testimony we're receiving, there was one, is from your friend who's a super fan and who would come on and live for you. But at the same time, I forgot to mention, I'm also a registered nurse. So when you say that you see the injury and it looks nothing more than a little scrape that he could have gotten when he maybe fell to the ground or was tussling, it looks like a little superficial abrasion. It does not look like a graze from a bullet. You are absolutely right. It's like a joke, these injuries. And when it comes down to it, if the jurors are getting frustrated, like you said, Nick, they're going to come down and say, go away, get out of here. And that translates to reasonable doubt, and it's in favor of the defendant. The injuries are suspect. Your motive is suspect. We ain't got no gun. Everybody's lying. You have a bunch of witnesses who are just uncultured, talking to the lawyers like, yo, bro, you mad annoying. I think this. I think that. Nobody cares. Go away. And it's going to work for Rocky.
Okay. All right. So moving on from that, let's talk about some of the people who have testified. Megan, I think you were the first one to point out that the first guy who testified was the son of a Real Housewives of Beverly Hills cast member. Let's talk about his testimony and him going to the scene, and he was accompanied by, I want to say, I think they said it was 7 total. So he was accompanied by 7 other officers or 6 other officers. They canvassed the area, and in the same location of the officers canvassing, they didn't find any shell casings, but Relly did after the fact. So I want you to speak to that. And then after that, Marie, I want you to go. In the meantime, I'm going to try to switch. But
yeah, the great thing about that testimony is they have, what is it, the body cam footage of when he's searching around, or is it his dash cam? I'd have to go back and pull it up, but you can actually kind of see them and hear them searching the area for bullet casings. So that's really the best thing that the defense has to work with, is the fact that the police officers looked through the area and didn't find the casings. But they also just weren't looking specifically for casings. He talked about they were looking for victims. They were looking for any evidence of a shooting. So I mean that testimony was kind of slow, and DA Paul Brzomek, the one who does the questioning, it gets a little like just kind of grading the way it goes. But I mean, the jury can go back and watch those videos themselves and see the cops kind of search the area, and they don't have the benefit of doing that with Relly, because we've heard all this testimony about how, the cop only went and got an hour of the video, and he saw somebody that he basically just, sounds like he basically just assumed it was Relly. And then it turns out Relly says he went back like 25 minutes later, and they don't have that video because they didn't collect it. So there's a lot of things that kind of work in favor of the defense here that also just kind of indicate that maybe the cops just didn't take this that seriously, like from the beginning. But it kind of depends on where the jury sides on that.
I think there was a certain degree, I don't want to say of messy policing, but incomplete policing, and that's going to work in favor of ASAP Rocky, because at the end of the day, the victim went and picked up the bullets and didn't turn it in to the police until 2 days after the fact. And they ran prints on the shell casings, and there were no prints found on them. So just the whole issue of chain of command, it wasn't a law enforcement officer who recovered the main evidence that is trying to say there was a gun prop or not. So that waters down the efficacy of that evidence against ASAP Rocky. And I think they did a good job, prosecution, with trying to show that even if it was Relly who found the bullets, it still doesn't mean that there wasn't a shooting, but it certainly didn't help prosecution the way the bullets were found. It didn't help Relly, the fact that he held on to it and he was taking pictures of the bullet, the shell casings, and texting it to Rocky's management and saying, hey, I have this. And basically, if you don't give me money, I'm going to the police. And then he never sought medical attention until he retained an attorney and they said, you should really go have that little scrape, AKA bullet wound, looked at. It just really damaged the prosecution's case. The victim and the post-crime behavior of the victim, ASAP Relly, Terrell Efron, really is putting a dagger in the prosecution's case.
All right. And so what do you say to and I talked to you about this on the day of her testimony. There was a 911 caller, and in my opinion, I think that the way in which you matter, I feel like she should have went on after Relly. I think his testimony, maybe they thought more about it, but she came on. She was like the second witness, and she stated that she saw the whole thing go down. I'm going to play a little bit of her testimony and then on that. Megan, I know you said that how much longer you got with us so that I can map it out?
I can stick around. I can stick around for until 1, probably a little longer.
Okay. All right. So let me play what she had to say, and then we'll move on to the next person. So this is the 911 caller who says that she witnessed this situation go down. So let me share. Oh, hold on. Let me share the screen. 1 second.
And it was more of like a jump back and pulled out a gun and then fired twice, or appeared to fire twice. And then everyone who's the people that I could see dispersed very quickly.
You keep referencing the El Centro apartments.
Yes.
Is it possible for you to point the direction you're talking about on this exhibit where those apartments would be?
These ones here.
Okay, so the direction that you're talking about that person taking on the street, can you kind of show us with the pointer on this exhibit?
It happened inside a parking lot, so this looks different to how it did when I lived there. But it appeared that they could access, ran through here towards Hollywood Boulevard.
Generally, are you saying though running away from Selma?
Yes.
Okay. And that the first person you saw heading that direction was the man with the gun?
Yes. They kind of dispersed at the same time. One went kind of through El Centro from what I could see, and the other went, it happened very fast.
Okay. You said it appeared that the man with the gun twice were your words, correct?
Yes.
What about the situation made you believe that he had discharged it?
The sound?
Could you actually hear 2 gunshots?
Yes.
Okay. The same time that you saw that man with the gun doing that jumping motion that you talked about?
Yes.
Okay. With that, I'm going to mark my next exhibit, the DVDs and transcripts.
The DVD is this of the 911 call?
Yes.
All right, that would be equals 8. And the transcript is 9. Do you have enough transcripts for everybody?
I believe I do here.
All right, Alex, can you distribute those, please? Yes, sir.
All right. Oh, hold on.
Sorry.
Okay, can you guys hear me? I switched computers.
You look better. You sound more clear, because when you did the last switch, I wanted to say, well, the one before was better, because the last one you look blurry and everything. But yes, you look great.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So that was the 911 caller. She basically said she saw the whole thing. She said she saw Rocky with a weapon. She said that she heard the whole thing. She seen the whole thing. They tried to jam her up about the fact that she didn't name the other people that was in her home that also observed it. And what do you guys feel as far as her testimony adding to this mounting amount of evidence that they have against Rocky?
I feel like it was useful to prosecutors because her story generally seems to corroborate his or helpful to the prosecution, because her story in 911 call generally seems to corroborate their story about what happened in Relly's testimony, and the idea that this altercation and him falling all happened after the first shot was fired.
I agree again with my co-panelists. I think the testimony certainly helped the prosecution to corroborate Nellie's story, because I'm sorry, I said Nellie, to corroborate Relly's story, because she said it like Relly said it. She saw some men walking, and then she used the word the vibe changed, and then she explained what she saw. She didn't exactly say that she saw ASAP Rocky, because remember now, she was 7 floors up on a high-rise balcony.
Yes.
And she could see shapes, she could see skin tones. She knew that they were African American, but she didn't say I saw ASAP Relly or ASAP Rocky. She didn't mention names. She just said I saw some figures. But the story, as she saw it, corroborated with the way ASAP Relly was explaining it on the stand. So it certainly helped, because she wasn't full of BS like 12V. She wasn't biased, and she wasn't a sycophant. She was just a girl who was smoking some weed in her apartment with some friends, and she happened to look outside and it looked weird. And she was concerned enough that she called 911, even though she didn't want to get involved. And they asked her, why did you call 911? She said, because I was afraid. I heard shots, I saw someone fall, and I was afraid someone was going to die. So that really helped prosecution. And she didn't have any horses in the race. She was just telling what she saw. And the fact that she was so reluctant to even give her name in the beginning, and her friends were like, don't mention me, and she still had to pull up, shows the seriousness of what she saw in her eyes, the exigency of the circumstance that prompted the 911 call, and it certainly set the story tone like the DA wants it to.
All right. She said prosecutors didn't even contact her until like a week before the trial. I mean, they've had her 911 call the whole time as evidence, but the decision to call her and secure her as a witness was pretty recent. So, I mean, it's not like it looked like she was coached or anything like that.
Exactly.
You know, spontaneous.
Yeah, I've seen some people say like, "Oh, you never know like who the people commenting in the chats are," but I one thing that I noticed was that the defense didn't attack certain things that I expected him to. Like, for instance, how you pointed out the fact that she didn't specifically see ASAP Rocky with the weapon, and she didn't specifically see certain things. I don't remember Tacopino like going there. Do you? Maybe I missed it.
No, you're right. He didn't go there. Where he went was, by the way, what were you guys doing? She said, we were smoking weed. And then he repeated, oh, so prior to the incident, you saw from your 7th floor balcony, you were smoking weed? And that was his mic drop moment, to insinuate and infer, okay, you were high, so you didn't know what the hell you saw. And then he kind of left it there because she could have done, there was not too much he could do to assail her testimony, because again, she didn't have no horses in this race. She was just saying what she saw. So going after her would just keep her on the stand longer. She had this sexy British accent and she looked all fly, believable, likable, and he just wanted her off. Moral of the story, everything you do is being watched from somebody. Rocky would never imagine in a million years that a woman on the 7th floor of a building that's looking down on where he's at would be coming here to blow up his spot. You can't hide dirt from nobody, people. Just don't commit the crime. That's it.
I'm wondering her being high, because I feel like if this was the Midwest or like a Bible Belt state or something, her being high would just be like, but I mean, so okay, so she was basically California sober, as we say. I mean, the idea that this LA jury is going to be like appalled by that. I mean, you don't know. The elementary school principal might take some issues with it, but you just don't know if that's going to discredit her.
Yeah, but yeah, that's why I was just like, I felt like the defense dropped the ball. Like, of course, you don't want to keep her on for a long time, but the things that you focus on is to put doubt in what she actually saw. And he didn't really do that for me. He didn't really make the points that you pointed out as far as, did you see him with, put doubt. But I think that could be because they are admitting that Rocky shot. Another thing that I want to fast forward to is Relly's testimony. He says that Rocky shot the gun and he was shooting the gun facing down. It hit his hand felt hot, and then that's how he knew he was shot. Fast forward to 12E taking the stand. 12E's testimony is he shot the gun, he shot it towards the ground, and then he doesn't know when the other shot went off. To me, obviously, you don't want somebody to lie on the stand, but I'm just like, his whole thing was, Tacopino's whole thing was, he was trying to adopt what the cops on the scene had said, as far as if it was a shot that rang out, it was just a warning shot to disperse. But I felt like, I don't know, I just wished they had their story straight. And I just did not think that, I don't know. I don't know. What did you think of the angle of he shot it towards the ground, but it wasn't a real gun, it was a prop?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it goes back to what we were saying about, like, does the prop gun just beg for the jury to burden shift and want more information about the prop gun? But also it kind of opens up a big window for John Lewin, who, as annoying as he is and how he needs to, calm down with all his freakouts and squabbles. He's kind of a legend in the DA's office in his ability to just like quickly absorb information and kind of get the narrative going. And he makes some mistakes. Like you heard him yesterday when he was talking about, because 12E had testified about how downtown LA is so crazy because that's where he's staying. So Lewin, a few minutes later in the exam, was like, okay, so you were in downtown LA. Why didn't you have security? And it had to be like, oh, you're assuming facts, not in evidence. This incident was in Hollywood. But that's an example of the fact that he's really only been on this case for like a month or 6 weeks or something. Like, he's coming in new to all this, but he has the ability to take situations and cases like this and make them really simple for the jury. And he can ask crystal clear questions or topics about, like, okay, so if this was a prop gun and Relly knew it was a prop gun, explain to me how Rocky pointing the prop gun at him would deter him from doing anything. And I feel like it's that kind of ability that the prop gun opens a whole door of questions for prosecutors to ask like that really just is kind of burden shifting, but legally is not going to count as burden shifting.
Okay. One question that I do have, and Marie, you said that if this wasn't ASAP Rocky, this would not even be brought to trial, jury, or anything like that. Do you think that they overcharged this case?
They overcharged it They shouldn't have charged it, and it wasn't, if it wasn't for the notoriety and the celebrity status of ASAP Rocky and the fact that he's married to Rihanna, we would not be here right now. Because you have a person who walks into your precinct with a lawyer several days after an incident where he claims his life was at risk and somebody shot at him with a semi-automatic weapon. He comes in with 2 little scrapes, abrasions, superficial, on his knuckles, and then you just charge somebody like with assault, basically with a deadly weapon, and that person could be facing up to 24 years in prison. This is how we're doing it. And then when you do your investigation, you find out that these are former friends that had a long-standing beef between them. That's undeniable. You find out about the phone call to Rocky's manager before he went to the police precinct, trying to extort for money. I'm going to be rich. You see those texts. You go back and look at his Instagram, his bank statements. He has judgments against him. He's money hungry, so he's grabbing at ASAP Rocky's money. And you still want to move forward with that? Just off the basis of all what I just said, they should have never charged him because their case is weak. Not that the DA's office should be in the business of, only trying cases where they can win, because it's all about justice and protecting the public. But when you look at the totality of the circumstances, all of the players, they should have just left that alone and let that man go to civil court and go after Rocky's money that way. To be going through the expense of a trial. Nobody was hurt like that. He had a scrape, like you said, Nick. It doesn't even make sense. Make it make sense. A gun grazed you with a real bullet,
and hit all
the entire hand would be shattered.
All of the fingers the same way.
Oh
All
my God.
I mean, I think the response to that would just be that, the gunman's luck isn't the victim's luck. We heard that argument in Lanes, and that some people might argue that if Relly was a white man, Rocky would be charged with attempted murder based on the text showing that he is the one who initiated this meeting and set it up. Yes, there was previous beef between them, but Relly had sent him some rude messages, and then Rocky goes out of his way to set up and arrange this meeting. And then there's video of him with a gun. And then there's a video of the shooting where Rocky admits that he's the one who fired shots. So that makes it really easy to identify who's who. But that's just another take on it. I mean, the recordings from Wally that the defense actually gave to prosecutors, like prosecutors would not have had those recordings from Wally, except the defense gave them to the prosecutors because the defense wanted to use a small portion, and the prosecutors went through and heard these recordings and were like, holy shit, this is the victim describing everything that happened. But he describes in there, you hear Relly talking about, and they played this for the jury, that people just expect, he was saying his lawyers told him that people just expect black people to be crash test dummies, and that people are saying, oh, you shouldn't have reported this, even though when you listen to the calls, it really makes pretty clear to Wally that he didn't want to report Rocky to the police. He just wanted some money for this. And I mean, calling that extortion, I mean, I think a lot of people, especially people on the jury, are going to relate to the idea of wanting to get some money out of somebody who shot you. It just comes down to, are they really going to think Relly was shot? If they don't think Relly was shot, then it's just an extortion attempt. If they do think Relly was shot, then it's like, well, yeah, he wanted to get some money out of it. It seems like the money grab, it really just comes down to, do they think the gun was fake or not? And then the money thing, you can form an opinion from there on out.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody with eyes thinks that Relly got shot. I think that's why, to me, the prosecution shift to, well, whether he was shot or not, he shot the gun, because even in those recordings, he did say that the gun went off and that he shot at him, though. Like, he didn't say he was shot until now. At first, he was saying he shot at him. Oh, he shot his gun. He shot at me. But now it's, oh, my hand was hit. It was hot. It was this, that. So I think that both of their evidence or their theories cancel one out. Like, I don't think that anybody believes that he actually was shot. And I don't think that anybody actually believes that it was really a prop gun. So I feel like both of their theories wash each other out. What do you feel in terms of the recording, though? Do you think that it was supposed to be a help for the defense, but it ended up, to me, feeling like it was more of a hurt than a help? What is you guys' opinion on the actual recording?
Yeah, from a criminal, I mean, it took me a while to kind of realize the gravity of that. And it's like, wow, the defense really did just give that recording to prosecutors because they were so focused on the small parts about the money, but they're not realizing that trials are all about the big picture, and the jury doesn't want to feel like an attorney is pulling a fast one on them and only playing like part of a conversation to try to give this. I mean, the way they were playing the clips all out of order from the May conversation, from the August conversation, I mean, it just, and then I mean, John opening up that cross-examination with all those with all the other clips from the recording. I mean, I asked myself, I'm like, did Joe Tacopina realize that prosecutors would be able to do this, play all these other clips from the recording like this? And then the questions to Wally about what his conversation was with Rocky, and in John's ability to highlight what actually happened with Wally and to kind of show the weird socialness of this. It's like, you know, where he's like, okay, so you're taping Relly for 20 or 30 minutes, and then you're running over to the defendant and telling him exactly what happened. It's like, yeah, it starts to kind of highlight that this actually looks suspicious. The idea that he was trying to help Relly do anything. It's like, no, this is another like sycophant guy for ASAP Rocky who heard that ASAP Rocky was arrested for shooting somebody and called up the victim and taped him and heard the victim talk really candidly about what happened and just turned around and sent everything to ASAP Rocky to try to help him out. I mean, that's one way for the jury to kind of look at all that stuff.
Yeah, that is one way. And it does make ASAP really, you know, into a sympathetic victim, that they empathize with him, because at the end of the day, he's the low man in this whole equation. He says, I am nobody. Nobody likes me. Rocky is a superstar. Why would I want to pick beef with him and attack him? And for a grown ass man who is all over Instagram showing this and showing that, he's 6'3", all buff, and for him to little himself like that on the stand to say, I am no one, really makes, you know, a juror look at him. And then you're sitting here looking at Rocky, looking all fly and Met Gala status, pulling up in his trench coat. His wife is next to him. His mom is Fendi down head to toe. She got the body. His sister, boom, boom, laced up. It really makes, you know, Relly look a little sympathetic, because I saw him.
Look better to me.
Oh my God, that's so embarrassing. His bank account has $600. His girlfriend wired him the money. I felt bad for him, and that could translate into feel bad and do what's called jury nullification, meaning you throw out the law, you go with your emotions, and you pick the side of the person you felt most sorry for, even though prosecution didn't meet all its burden. You just feel sorry for this guy, and so you convict Rocky. This could happen. I mean, I'm not picking a side.
I think that could have happened if he was a better witness. I think that the jury, from when I watched him testify, was looking at him like, what's happening here? And I just think that there's two unlikable characters.
Yes.
I think that Lewin is liked by the jury. I look at their expressions when he's going overzealous, overboard, and I see the annoyance in their faces. And I also seen the annoyance in their faces when Relly was up on there. Not to say that because they were annoyed that they disregard the law and not convict ASAP, because it's totally possible that they can, but I just feel like it just brings me back to, if they don't convict Rocky, I don't feel like it's because, oh, we think you're innocent. It's just this whole thing is a huge annoyance. Just go away, go
away translates to prosecution did not prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. If there's any doubt in your mind when it's time to go into that jury room to deliberate, did he do it? Did he do it? Annoyance, double A equals acquittal. Okay, that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
you're right.
Okay, so who else was there that testified, or something that I wanted to bring up? I found it interesting that, and I mean, I kind of understand probably why they didn't put 12. I mean, what's his name? Ills. But he was the one in the thick of it the most. So I'm like, why wouldn't he go testify? But I seen his Instagram. He looks a little, I don't know. But what do you think? What do you think the jury will think that the person that we didn't see as much in the video, 12 testifying, but the guy who's like we see in the thick of it, he's not testifying?
I think that the jury is going to look at it suspect, and it's not going to be in favor of ASAP Rocky. Because here you have a person that really claims was used as a human shield to save his life against being struck by a bullet intended for him by ASAP Rocky. He was basically holding Ills around so that Rocky wouldn't shoot him, and Rocky was chasing him, trying to find an opening to shoot him. Why would you not bring this person to either refute what Relly is saying or corroborate what 12B is saying, right? Again, that not bringing Ills, I don't know if Ills is ill, LOL, but he needs to come, just like what Megan said. The missing gun is a problem, and the missing Mr. ASAP Ills is a problem, because he's such an integral part of this story, and he would be a second corroboration. Why not bring him? Not bringing him makes it look like, okay, y'all must be lying. Maybe Ills is not as much as a sycophant as 12B, and he's not coming to lie for you. Where is Ills? Where's the gun? That's a problem.
Yeah, what is your thoughts about that, Megan?
Yeah, I'm just disappointed because I've told a couple people that I think one of the best things and one of the best nicknames that I've ever heard in court has got to be if your name is Elijah and you spell it ILL to begin with, so your nickname is Ills. I'm like, that's got to be one of the best nicknames. I'm like, well, I want to meet this guy. And Nika, I just went and followed him on Instagram after you said that. But yeah, it's kind of an example of who are the jurors going to wonder, like, why didn't they call Ills? Like, is it more, are they going to wonder why the prosecutors didn't call Ills, or are they going to wonder why the defense didn't call Ills? I do think that the jury instructions will play a role in this, though, because they're going to be told they can't speculate about that. And
This is true.
one thing, if the jurors don't agree, which I think it's pretty much a given that when 12 people go back, they're not all just going to agree on something. So they have to start talking. And if somebody is like, well, why wasn't Ills here? The prosecutors should have called him, or the defense should have called him. Somebody can be like, well, the jury instructions say that we're not supposed to consider that. So that's not going to be like any kind of starting point for a discussion. So that's when I kind of feel like jury instructions could play a role in like curtailing that from being an issue, but you just never really know. Like,
sometimes, you know, the judge could give jury instructions all they want when they say strike that answer, disregard it. People don't be disregarding nothing, all right? They go back there and they take it all into account with emotions, and they could really be annoyed, like Neek says, annoyed. What the hell? Y'all got us in here for days and days and days looking at this farce. The judge don't have no control of the courtroom. You got witnesses calling people who are cross-examining them or doing direct exam. Yo, bro, you feel me? Well, at one point the other day, the attorney says, you keep saying, do you feel me? Do you feel me? You know I'm not allowed to answer you back. I'm the one who's asking the questions. This is like the most ghetto proceedings that I've ever been to. And the judge tries to put everybody in check, but this is like, really? Like, really? Stop it.
Megan, can you tell us, because I came to court after they had started after the judge had put his hammer and his gavel down to finally.
Oh no, you froze.
No. Wait, we'll get right.
I have to come here because I got
nice.
I love the way you always have plan A, B, and C for when things mess up. I love it, love it, love it. This would make
me hear me
so anxious.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh dang!
I kind of got to go in like 5 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Okay, good.
I hear you. We hear you. Yes.
You can hear me. Okay, my computer went out, but I kept this up because the stream is better on my main computer, but it just restarts out of nowhere. But what I was gonna say while this restarts is dang, I lost my train of thought. Oh, Megan, can you explain when the judge finally got control of his courtroom? We're finally at day 9. And on day 9, he finally, after there's complete chaos, there's like a complete blow up to where I'm like, are they going to go to blows? Lewin is telling Tacopino he's on steroids. Tacopino is telling him what he's telling him. He's telling him that his defense is ridiculous with the prop gun. And it just was a whole lot. And then finally on day 9, the judge says, okay, I'm gonna put some rules down. Can you explain the parameters that he put in play?
Yeah, I mean, it's subjective for the judge, but he was saying there's been so much squabbling back and forth, fighting amongst counsel, pushing back on my rulings, the judge's rulings. And he said, from here on out, if there's incidents like that, I'm going to invoke California Code of Criminal Procedure that allows sanctions of up to $1,500 per attorney per instance. But kind of the catch is there has to be a hearing on this, and it's going to happen after the trial. So he's keeping track of each instance, and then they're going to have a sanctions hearing, which I wouldn't be surprised doesn't actually happen. But that's what he said. And pretty much, God, when was it? It was the morning when he said that, Friday morning, and then before lunch happened, the lunch break happened, each had already gotten one. And if you guys go to my YouTube page on the channel, I uploaded a video. It's only like 3 minutes long, but you can hear him say it. And then there's the 2 instances that happened. It's Joe Tacopina and John Lewin in the very beginning. They each get one. And then off the top of my head, I don't remember who, but I think it was just one, the next one. But the video has it. But it's not an automatic sanction. Like, there's a process for this, and there will be a hearing. But I think the judge was getting a little embarrassed. And one thing I think is evident in the way the judge kind of goes after Lewin is that they've all been doing this for so long, especially Joe. You can tell that the judge and John Lewin have known each other for a really long time, the way they go after each other. And one thing, and I was going to tweet about it again, but I tweeted about it yesterday because a lot of people caught on the judge calling out John Lewin for saying closed fist. And the judge is like, well, there's no such thing as an open fist. And it's like, oh, haha, this is so great. It's like, okay, why is the judge interrupting this guy's exam to point that out? I mean, he was kind of just ridiculing him in front of the jury. And I think that's an example of these guys have been seeing each other at bar events and around the courthouse for like 25 years, But I mean, the judge is complaining about the exam going on too long. And then he's kind of needlessly interjecting stuff like that. It's like, well, he's technically right, but closed fist is also a really common phrase that a lot of people use. I mean, there's just little things like that I wish the judge wouldn't do. But I think his overall, I'm going to sanction you guys if you don't stop whining, was a good move.
Yeah, but he put a gag order days before that. And I was in court when that happened. He said, this is a no harassment zone. You guys don't talk to each other unless it's about the case.
That's not the same. The gag order was against the press. He didn't have the gag order was the attorneys are not supposed to talk to the press. That doesn't have anything to do with like the attorneys fighting amongst themselves. The gag order was don't talk to the press.
Yeah, but one of the reasons why he put the gag order is because what was being said in the press was spilling out into the courtroom between the two of them. And they were acting more like adversaries on the street than attorneys in the courtroom. And so the gag order, he thought if you just stop talking to TMZ, because one of the things the prosecution said is basically Tacopina said on TMZ, in sum and substance, I could beat him up. He's loud. He makes disparaging, remarks to the press and to people like Nick outside of the courtroom, and he wanted it stopped. So he thought by issuing the gag order, he would stop the.
Not people like me. He ain't said that to me.
No, he didn't say to you, but Tacopina gave you an interview outside of the courthouse. So talking to you would be a part of the gag order. And I think it started with the gag order just to shut everybody up, to prevent the animosity from spilling over. And it didn't help because, like Megan said, the judge, I think at this point, is taking part in the fiasco, in the inappropriate court decorum shenanigans by injecting himself and trying to embarrass the prosecutor by saying a real closed fist doesn't look like that. And then he just kept nodding and just mocking him. The judge is out of control himself. He's not controlling the courtroom.
Anyway, Thank you so much, guys, for having me on. I got to sorry to cut it short, but it was great to see you. And I will see you guys on Monday. Hopefully, we're almost near the end here, so probably Tuesday.
Take care.
Maybe Wednesday.
All right. So I think what Megan was saying was, yeah, I agree with you that he probably wanted to pull the reins in from them talking to the media, because he did make a big deal about that. But what happened yesterday was his introduction to sanctions if they do like speaking objections, and if they like continue to do speaking objections, continue to have all of this back and forth. That was what Megan was talking about, just to clarify.
Yeah. Right. I understand. He added another layer of admonishment. Now it's going to hit your pocket if you keep doing it. But just the fact that it came to that. And we're talking about three very seasoned people. The judge, of course, Mr. Takapina, and the prosecutor. They've been doing this for a long time, so they should know better. And the judge is the person who runs his courtroom. So all of these shenanigans that are going on, it starts with the judge. And if he had disciplined the courtroom from the beginning, he wouldn't even be having to try with threats of imposing monetary sanctions, because these attorneys don't know how to act. It reflects on the judge, period.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely does. I was just shocked that it took until day 9 for him to finally like reel it in and, get control of what was going on. My computer, I want to do it mainly on my computer, but it's messing up. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to what you've observed with this trial?
I think that it is not a slam dunk for anyone. I think when you put your life in the hands of 12 jurors, it could go either way. This week, I've covered cases on court TV that the verdict has been shocking to me. Some of the cases, I know you're very engulfed with the ASAP Rocky case, being there every day in the courthouse, but there are some cases that have come down with the verdict being jaw-dropping. One being this kid who lived with his father, and he had an argument with the dad, and he claims the dad tried to attack him and he shot his father. They investigated and felt like it was self-defense, so they never charged him. 18 months later, same kid moves in with his mother and then ends up killing the mother, stabbing her in the neck. It went to court. We had a trial, and the jury found him not guilty of killing the mother because the jurors were not allowed to hear about the incident with the father. That was shocking to me. That being said, my point is, you never know what a jury is going to do. So I'm beginning to be worried for ASAP Rocky, because although the deal involved him being a convicted felon, spending time in jail, having a suspended sentence that could be reinstated with a slight, probation violation, I get that. But he really rolled the dice because the jurors could go either way with this. And the way this trial is going, the way it's so unconventional and the judge is not controlling the attorneys and it's upside down, I hope that he's not convicted, but it's not like a slam dunk for the defense. Because at the end of the day, ASAP Rocky has 2 kids, Rizza and Riot. He's married. He's not married to Rihanna, but he's a significant other. He's a parent. He's somebody that, is loved by his family. No one died here. There was not serious physical injury. I think this should be in civil court, and I hope that he's not convicted criminally, because that would be so, so sad, in my opinion.
Yeah, and if he is convicted criminally, the prosecution cleared up in court that he's not seeking 24 years.
He's seeking 8, right?
8. He's seeking 8 years. So
that's a lot.
He'll do 8 because the judge more than likely is going to go with, if there's a guilty verdict, what the prosecution recommends and all of those things like that. So it's a lot of things to consider. I just feel like you said, it's not a slam dunk. I felt like before 12 got on the stand, I felt like a lot of what the deciding parameters on the verdict would be based on what he says. Now, in my opinion, when 12 got on the stand, when he was on direct with the defense, it seemed very rehearsed. It seemed extremely like a computer reading a script. Like, that's what it seemed like. And I thought that when it was crossed with the prosecution, I thought he would fold and deviate from the script. I was shocked and surprised that I felt like his testimony redeemed himself when the prosecution went up, because he stuck to the points. He didn't allow Lewin to bully him, and he stuck to what he says happened. And I feel like he did better handling Lewin than he did with Rocky's attorney. Because with Rocky's attorney, it just felt like he was over anxious to tell his story, you know? And
it made him look like a sycophant. It made him look biased. You froze again.
Okay, is it?
You froze a little bit, and what I said, you're right. On direct, he looked too anxious, too thirsty. It made him look like a sycophant. He makes him look, like he was full of BS, bias, and the sycophant vibe. It absolutely did. And he did too perfect. But we have a saying, with criminal defense attorneys, it's all fun on direct until you hit cross. But he did do a good job on cross. But the whole thing looked two-stage. All the prosecution had to do on cross is to just say, isn't it true you're his friend? Isn't it true that, it would hurt your career if you came and testified anything else than something that would get Rocky off? And then just get off. That's it. He didn't need to keep going back and forth with him. That cross was like a senseless argument between kids. And all he had to do is show the bias and keep it moving. They know that's his friend. And they know he didn't like Relly. That's it.
Yeah, and I think that worked against the prosecution, because where he was looking like he was just saying whatever to get Rocky off without the prosecution doing too much. But when Lewin got up there and he was, trying to handle him like he did Wally, and he wasn't reading the room. It made the jurors like 12 a lot more. And he got a chance to redeem himself, because he even redeemed himself a little bit with me, because I was looking at him like, I was even in the courtroom and I was watching it from the audience in the courtroom, and I was trying to like not burst out laughing at points, because when he was on direct with the defense and he was like, it was the prop. He put out the prop. And then he was like, I was like, what? Like, it was just the way. And when he would, like, the details that he added, he was like, yeah, I met him. I was reading an MLK, Martin Luther King book. And I'm just like, what?
You're right. 12B definitely stood up to the prosecutor. Even when he said, I saw Ills had a busted lip. And then the prosecutor tried to water that down, almost to say you didn't see anything, because Relly was not beating up Ills like that. It was never that serious, because the next day y'all went to that convention and Ills was fine. I don't see no cut on his lip. And 12B was like, if you look, it looks swollen to me. And he had the flag over his head. Who's to say that he wasn't bruised? How do we know what pain he felt internally? I saw his lip bleeding, but I didn't know if the blood was coming from maybe his gums was bleeding or his teeth were bleeding, because they were punching him in the Relly was punching him. He gave an explanation, and we can't even see all his face because the flag is on his face. So his ear might have been swollen. We can't see it. So 12B turned around and did a Perry Mason moment and really made the photograph they put up to try to make him look like a liar. Photograph worked in his favor. Maybe he put the flag on to hide his injuries. It was like mic drop moment for 12B, baby. Stop it.
I feel like he really made the jurors like I don't know. I just wish that Lewin would read the room a little bit when he's doing all of that. And it's like, yes, those overzealous, no, strike that. That works for some people to throw them off their game, but it's not working here. Move on.
That's right. He should have just hit the nails. That's your friend. You would lie for him. You tour with him. You're all on his body. You want to be on the best side of him and Rihanna. Next. That's it. And let the jurors figure it out. That's his homeboy. He loves him. Who wouldn't want to be all up under A$AP Rocky? I'd want to be up in their house. I'd love it. And if I had to say something on the stand to keep being their friend, I would say it. The jurors are not stupid. They got that. Nick, he never had to stretch it out. The guy was on the stand.
He wants to stretch it out even longer. Like when the end of court yesterday, the judge told him, like after they cut off the cameras and everything, the judge told him, he said, you already spent 2 hours and 40 minutes with him. You have 90 minutes left with him come Monday. Lewin argued that, oh, well, we never got a chance to talk to him. They didn't produce a well-detailed summary of what they talked to him about. He's talking about instances of,
seeing the prop gun.
Yeah, like he's talking about instances of A$AP Rocky and him getting beat up in a club and, the home invasion thing. And we want to explore these things. And the judge said, you have 90 minutes. And then Lewin's arguing with him saying, like, that's not enough. It's like, you don't need that. Like, you just need to make your points and move on.
Exactly. I have a saying, that I make commentary on court TV. You don't have to RSVP to every cross-examination. You could totally pass on across. And if you have to do it, go in and out. Make your point of what you want the jurors to understand about the witness. He's lying. He's motivated to lie because that's his friend. And get off. Like you said, Nick, get off.
Yeah, all you did was make him more likable. The jury's in there laughing. He's making jokes when he's talking about certain things. They're laughing at his jokes. I'm looking at them respond to him. And then Lewin is like going hard and they're looking annoyed by him. And I'm like, you're not reading the room, bro. You're making them like him more versus make your point and go on.
Just like what happened with Relly. When Tacopina was cross-examining him, make your point. You made it. You didn't have to minimize him to a grade of his dignity. It made people feel sorry for him. We know he was broke. We know all of the Instagram stuff he was showing wasn't even real. It was fake book Instagram life. We know what his bank account looks like. You put it up there already. You don't have to chip away at his whole body like that. Sometimes when you beat up on a witness too much, it flips around and, like you said, makes the jurors have empathy for the person who you're trying to make look like the bad guy. Do what you need to do and leave. You don't have to stab 1,000,000 times when one little stab wound would take care of it.
Yeah. I didn't mind him beating up Relly, though, with his Instagram and his false life, because I think that I probably have a difference of opinion on that, because I think that he was playing up the idea of you bitter, you broke, you want his money, and you want to be able to sustain this fake image that you portray on Instagram. So that's kind of what I got from it. At no point did I feel sympathy for Relly, but
I did.
I understand your point of view.
I did. I think it's my motherly instinct because, we're not in the same age group. And I looked at him. And he actually reminded me of a family member who could be in that same situation. And I just felt bad for him when he said, I'm nobody. You imagine somebody on national TV knowing the press that this case is getting for him to say, I am nobody.
Yeah. I just felt like he was a toddler up there. Like, I felt like he was just a complete, baby. And it didn't make it any better for me because the judge kept babying him on the stand too. So I was getting annoyed that the judge was babying him. Like, they would go on breaks and, he's like, you got your water? Take a swig of your water. Like, anytime it was intense, he's like, drink your water. And he was coddled like a toddler. I'm like, hold this motherfucker in contempt.
Oh,
Get your courtroom. Lock him up if he don't listen to what you say. Like, I don't know. I didn't get empathy for Relly. I got annoyance. because he was annoying.
No, he was annoying. He was annoying. Yeah. He was disrespectful. I really rarely see a victim who is being questioned by defense disrespect the defense like that, calling Tacopino bro, saying you mad annoying, not listening to the judge when the judge is like, answer the question yes or no, adding all his 2 cents. And you know what? It ended up hurting him, because some of the questions, if he answered it with a yes or no, he would have never opened the door, because you were in the courtroom for the negotiations of what they could ask and what they couldn't ask outside the presence of the jury. And a lot of things that the judge said was off limits to ask Relly became relevant because of the things that Relly said in his answer.
Relly himself was saying, pull up this, you can look at this, let's open, he was doing all of that crap.
I think the DA did not prep him properly, because he became a combative witness, and like you said, it could make him unlikable, unbelievable, and it made him look very aggressive in his nature. And if you can't control yourself in the presence of a judge, a jury, in a courtroom to know how to act, and you're really almost like you want to jump out of your chair and punch the defense attorney in the face, calling him bro, telling him you mad annoying. Like, I've never heard that. A witness on the stand is telling the questioner, the attorney, whoever it is, you're mad annoying, bro. Like, who? I mean, I talk street just like anybody else, but you need to be able to switch it up, and you need to be able to correct your grammar, because it impacts the way the jurors look at you. He made himself look like a hood-in. That's what he did. And the way they kept using the N-word, at some point, you were there when ASAP shook his head and said, I want the word nigger to stop being used, and can we use the N-word? Because they were just throwing it everywhere around, reading transcript. Nigga said this, nigga said that. And ASAP was like, okay, I've had it. Just the fact that it was ASAP who had to shut it down like that shows how much the judge did not contain his courtroom, because that should have been something that was done pre-trial, to say, we're not calling. Sometimes they even say you can't call the defendant a victim or the victim by this name or that name. They should have just said, never use the word nigger, y'all.
They were saying the N-word like it was nobody's business.
Until Rocky shut it down and said, I am tired of this. Can we put some parameters here?
Right. And
that courtroom is crazy, okay? People, y'all need to be there. Next time, popcorn is what we need.
Are you going to go on Monday? I'm going to be there on Monday.
I may, because, I'm on court TV a lot, and it's hard because if I'm on Smack, you know how far court is from where we live. Court is not easy. So when you see Neek out there, the first one to get her ticket, and it is not easy. It is a trip. The traffic, the parking. I respect what you do. I don't know if I'll be there, but if I am, I'm definitely gonna, come and say hi to you. But it's not easy. But you are our eyes, our ears. The spirit is there. I'm glad that you go, and I'm glad that you go afterwards to try to see what's going on, who wore what. I love it. Thank you for what you do.
Oh, somebody in my chat, they said I look stalkerish for trying to get Rihanna leaving the courtroom, and I'm like, okay.
Stalkerish? It's called covering the news. It's called unofficial journalism. It's called doing what people want you to do, because you are the eyes and the ears and what?
Right. They were
just ignorant.
Yeah, people were mad because they were saying I wasn't asking good questions. But I'm like, first of all, they've already been instructed not to talk to the media. So I already know they're not really going to answer much. So I'm just going to ask whatever come to my mind. I don't even, because at the end of the day, the only time that they're really going to talk to us again and answer questions is when the case goes to the jury and they come out and they probably will answer, what do you think it's going to be? Guilty, not guilty, or whatever. And then the next time they'll probably, I assume, talk to the media is when there's a verdict. And if it's a not guilty verdict, oh, they're going to be all out there talking to us like crazy. But if there's a guilty verdict, I don't expect to talk to them.
I think if I had an opinion on how you cover this case, I would say, let's listen to the young woman who has more than 250,000 subscribers. I think at this point, you kind of have it figured out and you know how to do it right. So for me, I like the way you do it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You cover all aspects, serious, fun, and everything in between. But you deliver the news because that's what we need to know. You're in the courtroom, you're taking notes, you're analyzing it from a humanistic point of view and from a legal perspective as well, because this is not your first rodeo. You know the rules like you are an attorney because you've heard the rulings, you go do your research, you know the rationale. So whoever it is needs to have a seat, 250,000 seats or more. Sit down. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, is there anybody in the chat that has any questions for Marie? Marie is a former prosecutor. She's a criminal defense attorney, and she has a lot of insight. I don't want to keep her too much longer because we've already been an hour and a half. But if there is anybody who has any questions and you want to ask her anything, put question in the, like, put Q and then your question. Or if you want to come up, I'll probably keep Marie maybe like 10 more minutes or so. Is that cool, Marie?
That's fine. And if they want to find my Instagram, it's my name, The Marie Pereira. That's my Instagram. And I'm also a registered nurse, so I have good insight on injuries and things like that and cases where there's violence. And I'm also an immigration activist. I'm from Haiti, baby. You see my flag. I support Haitian migrants, and I have a non-for-profit. It's called Haiti Immigration Project, HIP for short, because you know I'm hip. All right. Yes. And it's www.hip.support. And I personally do free work permits for migrants. I support all migrants, especially the ones from Haiti, because I'm the child of 2 Haitian parents. So I want to say thank you for approaching me, asking me to be on this live with you. I feel honored that someone,
I'm so happy that you came on.
Someone who knows and loves crime stories like I do, in the lens of not just, covering for salaciousness, for covering for justice. I see the cases you cover, and I feel like you're not just, a person with over 250,000 subscribers on social media and on YouTube, but you care about the cases too. You cover some cases where your advocacy for anti-violence, anti-pedophile vibes, anti-child abuse by neglect vibes, where you take it personal and you deliver the news, but at the same time you're creating a safe space and your words are working to prevent what happened from happening. Because I see the cases you cover and the passion you have, especially when it comes to children being abused sexually. You are on it. You're an advocate through.
I play when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'm like, Somebody on my thing was like, oh, we need to give women grace who have been a victim of this and, allowing it to happen. I'm like, I'm not giving them no grace. I don't care. If you've been a victim of it, then you should be more than a person to protect the next. Like, no. But
exactly. I like it. If you're a victim, you know what? Through prayer, support, time, therapy, protect the next. Yes. You've been a victim. Don't bring a pedophile in your house to molest your nieces and get them pregnant and murder them. Don't do that. Even though you're a victim of abuse, it has to stop somewhere.
Exactly. That's what I'm like. But let's go to the questions.
Okay.
All right. So the first question I'm going to put on the screen is from Stevie Ray. He says, how does jurors look or come across to you?
They're very serious about it. Nick, you see, they have their little pads in their hands. They're quiet. They're looking at the testimony. They're listening to the testimony. They're looking in the eyes of the person on the stand. They're looking. They're paying attention because they want to make sure that when they go in that room to deliberate, they go in with facts And when you see jurors taking notes, that's very impressive. So to answer your question, the jurors are on it. They are not here to play. They're not.
Another person had asked what the jury makeup is. If I was to describe them, I would say that it's white, Mexican, and Asian. That's kind of my description of it. What would your description of the makeup of the jury be?
I said I was on Vinnie Politan Investigates last night, and they asked me basically the same thing, what I thought an issue was. I said the jurors are going to have an issue connecting with the case, period, because there are no Black people on the jury. You need to understand the culture. And when they say a jury of your peers, yes, the jury is diverse, but as far as it pertains to the players in this case, it circles back to what you said. They're not going to care because it's just a whole bunch of, I want to say, Black people acting ignorant, okay? And they may not connect the way they should. Diverse, yes, but the connectivity that it takes to understand how young Black men in collaboratives or gangs or whatever you want to call it, a mob or collaborative, positive or not, act with each other when there's a dispute. I feel like you need to be, I want to say, African American from these areas to understand the dynamic that's going on here. And you don't have that on the jury. So I think that's bad for both, because the jurors may not care. They don't understand who is A$AP Rocky, who is Relly, why are people called 12B, why are people called Elijah called Ills, who are these people, and why, if it's a positive group, people are walking around with guns, what's snitch culture? They need to understand that. And I don't think the jurors could put their finger on the pulse of the community that is being held with all of this attention here.
Yeah, I think yeah, and just to go further on like describing them, I like when I was looking at some of them, I'm like, okay, she looks like she does yoga. She looks like she's like a soccer mom, has her like soccer van. And then, you know, some of the guys are professionals, like they're business professionals and things like that. So not
we don't see nobody that looks like the victim or the defendant. Let's just say that.
Yeah, they don't look like, even like if there was a person that was Mexican or white and they look like they probably have Black friends, like they don't look like they even have.
They don't look like that. So how are you going to understand the motivation, the violation, if you don't understand the culture of the environment that both victim and defendant are coming from? So you need to understand from their lens that, you know, someone like A$AP Rocky would not, and I don't know if that's a fact, but would not go out to confront another person who he grew up with from Harlem in the streets with a prop gun. Nobody's doing that. You know, like.
Okay, so before I go on to the next question, being that you've been on both sides, why didn't his attorney just go with self-defense versus the prop gun? Because like nobody believes that. So like why do you think they chose the prop gun as a defense versus, because they talked so much about him being a gun owner. Mm-hmm. He had weapons that he legally owned. Mm-hmm. So why I mean, I feel like it would have played off better that I would have went with accidental discharge, or he fired it in the air, because you can't tell which direction, if he fired it down, if he fired it up, you can't tell from the thing. My thing would have been he didn't shoot it at that time. At that time he passed it and somebody did a warning shot up. If your friend gonna lie anyway, shit, that's what I would have been like.
I think Joe Tacopina and his team sat long and hard before they came up with the theory of the case. And I think they felt from the totality of the circumstances, the text messages and the delay in reporting fostered and warranted them going with the money grab theory. But I think while the case is developing within their defense, they are backdoor introducing a self-defense theory, because there are words now that the, you know, defense case is on, being used like, who was the initial aggressor? And that's words of terms used in the self-defense theory. So even though they didn't officially lodge it in the beginning as an affirmative defense, because that's what self-defense is, and you really pretty much before the case starts are obligated to tell the prosecution that's going to be your theory. They didn't do that, but they're trying to introduce it midway through a side door, and that is less effective. So to answer that question, we don't know, because we weren't there when they were having the powwow to say, okay, how are we defending this? Maybe after the verdict.
Okay, so I guess a better question, given the details of this case, what would your defense be? Like, would you adopt the fact that he did have a weapon and it was discharged, or like, what do you?
I probably would have adopted the fact that he did have a weapon and it was discharged. And then it was accidentally discharged because he was defending himself. That he went to have a talk with him. And did he have a weapon on him? Yes. But he carried it just for extra protection. And when he got there, Relly, who is 6'3" and much bigger than him, became very aggressive. And when he aborted the confrontation, Rocky, and tried to walk away, then Relly now became the aggressor and started pursuing him. And giving their sizes, at one point, 12V testified that Relly picked ASAP up almost like a rag doll off the ground, and ASAP's pants were literally almost falling off him. And looking at Relly, you saw him in the courtroom. He's big. He's tall. He works out. He has broad shoulders. And ASAP Rocky is thin, not 6'3", doesn't look like he works out as much. And really, if there was a fist fight between them, Relly could break Rocky in half. So the size disparity would support the, okay, I came to tell him off and to scare him, and then whoop, you know, he started beating me up. And even when I tried to walk away, he pursued me. So he became the initial aggressor. That's what I would argue, but I don't know if the video 100% supports that. But I would argue it anyway and see what happens.
Yeah, I just don't think anybody in their right mind believes the grays or the prop. It's like, if you're going to say that it's a prop gun, show us the prop gun.
Yes.
And then you're saying that it's a prop gun, but we don't have the weapon and we're not going to produce it. And it's just like.
And that's a big problem in the case of the prosecution, because everyone I've talked to in our crime, you know, story world says the same thing. If you say it was a prop gun and this is an issue, then you need to produce the prop gun. And if you don't have it, then why did you destroy it? It's simple as that. The post-crime behavior.
That makes no sense. And 12V, if you're listening, which you're not supposed to, but if you are, I just feel like y'all should have had y'all story straight. Like, we know that you're lying on the stand about certain details. And if you're going to get up there and lie, I just want to suggest a better one. When they were asking you about why he had a fake gun, and this is something too that I don't understand what their legal team is doing, because I'm a California resident. I'm born and raised out here. It's not easy to secure a gun license to carry. And that has not been presented in the trial. That has not been made mention. They're asking him, well, if you were a person that had a licensed gun, why were you carrying a prop gun? And if they consulted with me, which obviously I don't have a legal background, I'm just, somebody that, I just ain't silly all the way, but my theory, what I would have told 12V to get up there and say on the stand is he's registered and licensed to have the weapon in his home, but he's not licensed to carry. If he gets caught on Hollywood Boulevard with a loaded pistol, he is not licensed to carry. There's a difference from being licensed or having permission or permit to have a weapon and being licensed to carry one. And so he carries one in the streets as a prop because he's not legally licensed to carry, but he has a real gun in his home because if somebody come in, he legally can bust a cap. They have not said that. And I'm just like, who are y'all talking to? Y'all need to hire me because what are we doing here? Like, if you're alive, make the lie believable. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
You know what? I think a lot of what it takes to be an advocate, a lawyer, and a litigator comes from common sense. And you may not hold a degree, but you have CSE evidence all up in your brain because you watched it. You love crime stories, true crime, and you analyze the cases. And a lot of the analysis doesn't have to be from a book. It's common sense because jurors are not lawyers, and they're the ones who are tasked with making a decision of whether or not the person is guilty. The prosecutors prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. So please don't underscore yourself to say, I'm not a lawyer, but you have common sense. And at the end of the day, it's people who are not lawyers who makes the decisions.
Yeah, I'm like, why aren't they bringing that up? Like, because I'm a gun owner. You know, I own a gun. I have it for protection, and
I'd be so scared to own a gun. I could never.
Really? Yeah, I own a gun. So it's like, I know that there's laws on how you have to store it in your car. There's laws on how you have to have it in your house. And there's laws about you having it on your person and walking around with it loaded. There's laws against that. So if I'm going to say that it's a prop gun, I'm going to make it make sense as to why you have a licensed, I mean, not licensed, because he doesn't have license to carry. They never said that. Why you are registered with a gun and you have a gun and you're not carrying it. I feel like that's easy to convey, and they're not doing that. So I'm just like,
I know. Sometimes they miss the obvious, maybe because they're so close to the tree, so to speak, that they have to step back like you're looking from the gallery and you're listening to what they're saying, and the questions they should be asking in your head are not being asked. And because you're looking at it from that point of view, I could tell you from being an attorney trying cases, it's not always easy. Sometimes, you take notes and you have bullet points, but there's always going to be that one question when you're driving home. You're like, oh shit, I should have asked.
right.
Maybe they should have you as a consultant.
They need to. All right, I'm gonna ask you a couple more questions real quick. All right, question: is Prosecutor Lewin's behavior acceptable, or is he a proper advocate?
There are times when his approach is unacceptable because we have what's called courtroom decorum and etiquette, and both prosecutor and defense attorney Tacopina are out of pocket for the way they're behaving in court. It's uncalled for. And it's the judge's role to police his courtroom. And the judge has not done an adequate job at making sure that the attorneys maintain proper court decorum and the witnesses as well. He's not doing a good job. And this is why he had to take it there and really say, if y'all still plan on acting stupid and aggravating me, I'm going to hit you with your pockets and sanction you, hold you in contempt if you don't shut up. I mean, that's like, a judge should never even reach that level, because you should shut it down from the beginning. Say, this is my courtroom. These are the rules. And if you don't follow it, that's what's going to happen. He tried, and they're not abiding by his rules.
Yeah. All right. Lady J says, can you ask if she prefers prosecuting or defending?
Lady J, I used to work for the Bronx County Prosecutor's Office. And I left there after a certain time because I don't want to say that I have a criminal mind, but I have a certain degree of empathy for people who are accused. And I saw a lot of people being accused in the DA's office that I was forced to prosecute when I felt like there should have been other options. People on drugs, people engaging in, small white collar crime. It just, I didn't prosecute with all my heart. And I felt like criminal defense was my route because I feel like a lot of people are prosecuted unfairly when they shouldn't be. And I could no longer continue to be a part of that and remain silent and prosecute people who I felt like, okay, what exactly did he do that we're prosecuting? Because sometimes when you're a prosecutor, you don't get to pick and choose who you prosecute. There's policies and procedure, and you just have to follow it. And I don't want to say I have a criminal mind, but I'm more, I like to defend people rather than accuse them.
All right. Tammy says, how do you think the case will turn out? Predictions?
I still don't know. I don't know, and that's the scary part. And if at this point the defense is almost done with their case, all they have to do is bring a couple of more witnesses. And if ASAP Ills is not going to be one of the witnesses, which I agree with you, he should be. And who else are they going to bring? And then we decide whether or not Rocky's going to testify.
The road manager, Levin, or some guy that's.
So he's just going to come to verify. Yes, I did receive text messages from ASAP Relly showing me the picture of the bullet and asking for money.
I think he's supposed to also say that the case, the bullets that were found at ASAP's house that were the 9mm casings that didn't match the casings that Relly brought, I think he's gonna say that those are to his gun. I think that's what his contribution to the case is.
Right. And again, I don't think his contribution is gonna tip the scales. What's gonna tip the scale is whether or not ASAP Rocky is gonna take the stand and explain to the jurors what happened, to fill in the blanks, literally, about this gun who only shot blanks.
Yeah, I don't think that.
I don't think he's gonna do it. I don't think he's gonna do it. So to answer the question, because I know we've been on for so long, I don't know, but I think it works in favor of reasonable doubt, because at this point, if you being the expert that you are, and me being a criminal defense attorney, we still don't know, then it might lean in favor of an acquittal, because that's what happens when the jurors don't know. It is reasonable doubt. We don't know beyond a reasonable doubt if this person did this based on the prosecutorial presentation of the case, were all the elements of the crime attributed to the behavior of this defendant. We don't know. And then, boop, acquittal. Yeah. I would hate to see ASAP Rocky go to prison, though, because it's not a joke at the end of the day. I mean, I feel like if Relly was injured, really, then I would be like, okay, this is not funny now. But the little scrape on the knuckle.
Yeah, that's the part where I'm like,
I don't think he needs, he even if he did everything that they're accusing him on, ASAP Rocky, I still don't feel like he needs to be taken away from his son Rizza and his son Riot, and from his significant other Rihanna, to hurt his career, to put him in prison with hardened core criminals. Because when you look at ASAP Rocky, he is not for the streets no more. Come on now. He's wearing trench coat business suits and skirts on the steps of the Met Gala venue. He's on the board. He's not for the streets. Rihanna must be mad as hell. Every day they go home, she probably looks at him and she says, what?
I wonder if Rihanna like this type of stuff. A lot of, and
I don't think she likes it. Well, listen, everybody likes a man who's on the streets and kind of rough, but to be sitting next to him and him facing 8 years in prison, that's a whole nother story. It's all fun and games until the penitentiary is at risk. And I'm sure if she was home that night when he was going out, I'll be back, boo. Do they even say boo anymore? I'm dating myself. He probably would say, I'll be back. I'm gonna meet, Ills and 12. I'll be back.
Yeah,
Did she say, did he say we're going to confront that in rally because he's out here talking shit, blah, 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 blah. Rihanna would have said, sit your narrow ass home. That's what she would have said.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sure
think that she liked this type of stuff.
No.
That's just my opinion. I think that a lot of comments that I've seen, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, she's never been associated with, crime or criminals and all this type of stuff like that." Which, yes, she don't have no stains on her name as far as that, but it's clear that Rihanna likes bad boys, and I think that this is a part of what comes with dating a bad boy, But I'm going to ask the next question. Somebody says, do you think every time Rocky blurts out, will the jury hold him accountable? Yesterday in court, they showed an image of his room, and it was the term og, and he blurted out for his friend not to answer that.
Yeah.
And then, what do you think about that?
It didn't help him. And I'm sure his attorneys admonished him because, first of all, you should not be talking to a witness who is here to testify for you on the stand. He's already being accused of being a BS, a biased sycophant person. And then now here you are ordering him like, yes, massa. Yes, master, answer this and answer that. You should never have spoken to him because it really clearly looks like if you can't resist ordering him around in the courtroom, imagine when he was at your house, what you were prepping him to say and not to say. It wasn't a good look at all. And his attorneys probably were mortified when he did that.
Yeah. Someone says, can't the attorney request for a better mix on the jury racial background? He tried that and the judge said no.
In the beginning, right, when they're picking the jury, it's called voir dire. It's like a French word. It's almost like hear and say. So you get to pick the jurors from a pool that the court provides, from voting records, DMV registration, but people who live in the general area, they randomly call them in. And they have jury questionnaires to find out if the jury is biased against the person being accused or the victim. Do they know anybody on the case? And questions like that. And yes, if you have a jury that's made up, it's like really skewed in favor of one person, the victim or the defendant, you can make objections. It's technical, but not all objections fly. You have to show that the jury is incapable of being a neutral person, to be a trier of fact and follow the law. And you have to state the reason. And they didn't meet, like Nick said, they didn't meet that burden to try to get more Black people, African Americans who look like the victim and the accused on the jury. So it just worked out the way it did because it's a technical process picking the jury.
What I found interesting was I was there the day of jury selection in the morning, and there was 4 cases in those courtrooms, all getting juries selected. Each of the jury pools for all of the other rooms on that same day consisted of Black people. They have Black people. It was more diverse. And then the jury pool that went into the one for Rocky, I was like, wait a minute. I found that interesting, but we'll move on. Somebody wants to know about your personal life or your romantic life. I'm going to skip that one. Someone says, why
you got to skip that one? I'm interested. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go to it. They said, personal question. Does your line of work affect your romantic life? Are men intimidated?
Skip it.
Okay. I'm skipping it. Somebody says, why are they allowing bullets in the case when there was no chain of custody for it?
That was one of the issues that I brought in when we were having the discussion earlier with Megan. There are chain of custody issues because initially the bullet should have been obtained by law enforcement. Okay, it wasn't. Relly went to the site of the alleged crime and he collected it. And then to make it worse, Relly had it in his possession for 2 days before he pulled up at the precinct with his lawyer to give it up. So chain of custody is an issue, and it's something that's going to work in favor of the defense. Messy policing, incomplete truth, improper handling of it from the beginning. It's important, and that's going to work for ASAP Rocky.
All right. Charisse said, do I see her comment? I'm trying to scroll up to see if I see it. And let's see. Maybe you only making comments. I don't see you making a question, Charisse. Let me see. I'm gonna answer just like 2 more, and then I'm going to end the live. Marie, tell everyone again where they can find you on IG, and also too in that area where you typed your name, you can type your Instagram too if it's easier for them to find. Oh, I see it now.
Girl, you wish that I would know how to do that. I told you from day one, I am Wilma Flintstone. I could barely work my phone. My daughter Tamara says, Mom, really? 2 degrees? You're a nurse, you're an attorney, and you can't work your phone. If they said $1 million, type in your Instagram right now, I couldn't do it. So later, it's my name, people, The Marie Pereira. That's where you could find me on Instagram. You'll find my personal clips. Who asked that personal question, you'll learn a lot about my life. If you go on my page, you'll see the court TV stuff I do, my shenanigans with my friends. My page is like one big mishmash of things that should be and shouldn't be on there. Go look. What elements to assault with a semi-automatic weapon does the state have to prove? They have to prove the person possessed a semi-automatic weapon. The weapon was used intentionally to intimidate and hurt another person. And that's it. You had it, you possessed it with the intent, the mindset. It's called the mens rea. That's the technical word. You knew what you were doing. You had the gun to do it, and it was an operable gun. Or they have circumstantial evidence to show it was an operable gun. In this case, it's the injury and the testimony of ASAP Relly, which, like Neek says, is suspect. Really, Relly, 2 little snaps, 2 little scrapes on your knuckle is not doing it for Neek. Okay?
It's not doing it for me, baby. All right, you guys.
I like you.
I like you too, Marie. Marie is she one of the ones that's gonna tell it like it is, and
Hell yeah.
I love
every day I go on court TV. I have to zip up my mouth because they know me, and they're like, Marie, stop it, because I just speak it in little words, not big lawyer words, how I see it. That's why I couldn't be at the DA's office. I just couldn't. I couldn't do it.
Well, I'm going to try to have you back on. I really enjoyed your insight into this trial. There is they have to finish up 12's testimony. The judge said that he has 90 minutes with him, and then we're going to go to this manager that is the road manager to do what he is, and then they're going to be the closing arguments.
Yes.
And it's going to go to the jury. So I would love to have you back. And
I'd love to be back. And on when they close the case, I hope that day I'm not on court TV because it clashes with me being in the courtroom. Because you know the courtroom is an all-day thing. You can't be in the courtroom and do nothing else. Just getting there is an issue.
Right.
So I hope that day of the closing statement we could share it together and then talk about it after.
Yeah.
I love that we met. I feel like I have a daughter now.
Yes,
daughter who loves crime stories just like me.
Yes, we definitely could have so much banter on so many different stories, so many different topics. So I'm definitely gonna be like Marie.
So
yes, I love it. So so on the day, if you are there that day, then afterwards, then we can go out and do a live or something like that. So that'll be good. For those,
I'll be sad if ASAP is convicted, though. I'll be sad.
Yeah,
because prison is not a joke. Okay, prison is serious.
Yeah, my prediction is hung jury or not guilty. That's just what I think. Because
I mean, I hope so. That would be a win. Even a hung would be a win, because a hung means we weren't sure beyond a reasonable doubt, and we may do it again. And I think in a case like this, especially when there were no more injuries than a few knuckle abrasions, the DA would consider making maybe an even better deal or just not prosecuting it again. They're not, if it hangs, they're not going to do this again. Come on, Nick. They're not. They'd be wrong for that. Like, that, Get out of here, like you said. Both people, go away. Annoyance.
Go on and move away from me with this, Apollo. All right, so those are my predictions for those of you guys wondering. I think it's going to be either a hung jury or not guilty. If they come back with a guilty verdict, I would be surprised. From me watching the jury, obviously I'm not no jury analyst or anything, but just being able to look and observe people, my prediction is when they go into the jury room, it's going to be led by the men. I think that, or I noticed that when 12E was the men, they're not taking as many notes as the women. Okay, it's a couple of women who are taking like very detailed notes and writing down everything, and the men are kind of like sitting there, like
annoyance.
Yeah, they're like sitting there and they're observing it. So my prediction is one of the four person is going to be a man. I think that the women will follow their lead, whatever they guide them into through the evidence and say. I think that this is all going to come down to the men and what they think. And if there is not guilty, it's going to come down to the women saying, no, I think he should go. And the men saying, because I it just looks like petty beef with friends that is just silly. High school stuff, like silly.
Petty beef. And I think nobody deserves to go to real prison for this. Does he deserve some monetary compensation on a civil end? Yes, perhaps, but nobody never needed to be tried, for criminal activity that could result in you being in prison. There's a difference between jail and prison. Jail is when you're convicted of something that is less than a year. Prison is more than a year. Prison is serious. Yeah. Nobody needs to go to prison for this. Come on.
All right. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to follow Marie on her Instagram page. It is the Marie Pereira. Go and follow her for me and thank her for coming on. And those of you guys who are watching, what is your prediction of this case? Now, I do have a video from the day that the witness testified and said that she saw everything. And I talked to Marie when I was there. I'm going to input that in. I was going to play it on this live, but the way that the live was going to I didn't do it. So I do have a video that me and Marie did that I will play in another video when I probably do like a more in-depth breakdown. And I do like the clips and I do all of those things like that. But yeah, you guys tell me your predictions and I'll see you guys on the next video.
Bye.
Peace.